Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 5, Fraction, Decimal, and Percentage Equivalence. Lesson 5. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to convert between fractions and decimals with a focus on tenths and hundredths. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to convert between fractions and decimals with a focus on fifths and quarters. But before we start, I want to draw your attention to the support that is needed from you because thousands of people are enjoying these videos, but the subscriber numbers do not show it. So please do us a favor, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button, and click on the notification bell. If you do us this favor, our promise is we will continue to produce high quality teaching videos to benefit the global population of children. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to do the retrieval practice questions. Pause the video and answer these questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So you were asked to use the less than, greater than, or equal symbol to complete the statements. Here we can see 30 hundredths is greater than 0.2. 0.2 is the same thing as 2 tenths and is also the same thing as 20 hundredths. So 30 hundredths is greater than 20 hundredths. 3 hundredths, so B, 27 hundredths compared with 3 tenths. 3 tenths is 30 hundredths. So 30 hundredths is greater than 27 hundredths. C, 3 hundredths compared with 3 tenths. Don't let the numerator confuse you. 3 tenths is 30 hundredths. So 30 hundredths is greater than 3 hundredths. Here, 39 hundredths is equivalent to or the same as 0.39. 0.39 is 39 hundredths. So we use the equal sign. Question number 2. We were asked to how much of each diagram is shaded. So here we see that in the block diagram or the bar model, we see that there are 3 bars shaded out of 5. So this is 3/5. And then in this bar model, we see that there are 4 bars, 3 are shaded. So this is 3/4. Now, first example. If you're asked to use the less than, greater than, or equal symbol to complete these statements, how would you do it? Well, to shade 4/5 in this 100 squares, we're going to have to split the 100 squares into 5 equal parts. Now, 4/5 is 4 parts. Have you noticed something? That we have shaded 80 squares. All right. So 4/5 is the same thing as 80 hundredths. If we're asked to shade 3/4, it means we need to split the 100 squares into 4 equal parts, which gives us this. So 3/4 will be 3 parts out of the 4 parts. But we cannot really compare to see which is larger, because we can see that we have not shaded this in columns. Yeah. Now 3/4 is 75 hundredths. We can see that there are 75 squares shaded. Each of them contains, each of them. So it's 5 by 5. So each of them contains 25. So if we arrange this, it looks like this. So we can now use the correct symbol because we can see that 4/5, which is 80 hundredths, is greater than 3/4, which is 75 hundredths. All right, pause the video and see what you can do with these quick practice questions. You can use your 100 squares or you can use the fraction wall to help you. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered these questions, here are the answers. We can see that 54 hundredths must be less than 3/5. Why? 3/5 means we split the 100 squares into 5 equal parts and we shade 3 parts. Now, if we split 100 squares into 5 equal parts, that will give us, okay, 100 divided by 5, which is 20. So each part is 20. So, which is 1/5. So 1/5 is 20. So 3/5 will be 60 squares. So that will be 3/5 will be 60 hundredths. So we'll clearly see that 60 hundredths is greater than 54 hundredths. Next one, we're asked to compare 1/5 with 20 hundredths. Now you can see just now when I explained, you will see that 1/5 is equal to 20 hundredths. 3/4 is 3 out of 4 parts. So you're going to split the the 100 squares into 4 equal parts. So each part is 25. So a quarter of 100 is 25. So 25 squares, little squares. All right. So 3/4 will be 3 lots of this, which is 75. So 3/4 is 75 hundredths and 0.7 is 7/10, which is the same thing as 70 hundredths. So 3/4 is greater than 0.7. So what you've learned so far is you understand that 3/4 is equal to 75 hundredths. Okay, because you split the 100 squares into 4 equal parts and 3/4 is 3 parts out of those 4 equal parts. And then if you ask, for example, what is 2/5, it means you need to split the 100 squares into 5 equal parts, and that 5 equal parts, each part is equal to 20 squares. Okay, so it's important you know that for the quarters and the fifths splits the 100 squares into 20s, and the quarters split the 100 squares into 25s. Now, it's up to you to now know how to express fifths and quarters as hundredths. Pause the video and answer question 1 in 3 minutes. You can take your own time. You don't have to stick to the 3-minute timing. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through this, here are the answers. So you can see here that 1/5 is 2/10. Okay. So 1/5 means we split these 100 squares into 5 equal parts. One of them is 20. So remember, fifths splits into 20s, quarters into 25s. Okay. So this should be 2/10. Yeah. Which are the same thing as 20 hundredths. Yeah. And the same thing as 20 hundredths, the same thing as 0.2. Here, you would see that we have 2/5, which is the same thing as 4/10. You can see that we have 40 hundredths, okay, which is the same thing as 4 of the columns. Yeah, each column is a tenth because each column will split these 100 squares into 10 equal parts, each being 1/10. So this is equivalent to 4/10 and is the same thing as, yeah, 40 hundredths. Okay, and the same thing as 0.4. Here, you can see the answers. Pause the video and answer question 2 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you were asked to use 100 square to help you complete the statement. All right, so remember what I said? Quarters splits the 100 squares into 25, lots of 25. So 4 parts, each being 25. So a quarter is 25 hundredths, which is the same thing as 0.25. And 3/4 is 75 hundredths, which is the same thing as 0.75. Pause the video and answer question 3 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 3, well done. You're doing very well. Celebrate your success. Here are the answers. All right. So 4/5 is 8/10. Okay. You could have used, so using the fraction wall, you can see that 4/5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, is 8/10. Yeah. And the same thing as 0.8. You know that 0.8 is 8/10. And then 6/10. So if we count 6/10, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see that 6/10 is the same thing as 3/5. You can see it there, 3/5. And that is the same thing as 0.6. Yeah. Remember, the fifths splits the squares into 20 lots. So if we have 3 lots of 20s, that would be 60 hundredths. And 60 hundredths is 0.6 because it's also the same thing as 6/10. All right. 2/4. So we look at 2/4 using the fraction wall. We go up, up. You see that is equivalent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is equivalent to 5/10. All right. And then we can see that it's also equivalent to 0.5. And then we can use the greater than or the less than symbol. By using the fraction wall, we can complete these. Okay, let's look at another example before we do some practice. If we're told to find the next 3 terms in a linear sequence, have you noticed something that we noticed in our previous lesson? We cannot really find out the constant difference. Remember the word linear, okay? Linear means that the word linear means that there must be a constant difference. So this word here means constant difference. Either we're adding the same number every time or subtracting the same number every time. But if we express it as hundredths, which you should know by now, we can find out the constant difference, the amount we're adding each time or subtracting each time. This is a decreasing linear sequence. So expressing 3/4 as 100 is 75 hundredths, 3/5 is 60 hundredths. We can see that we are subtracting 15 every time, so 15 hundredths. So that gives us 30 hundredths, 15 hundredths, and 0 hundredths. But remember, we can rewrite these fractions because we know fraction equivalence and decimal equivalence by now. So that will be 3/10, and that will be 0. Another example. If we use this number line, yeah, we want to use this number line to help us find the missing numbers. Well, if we use the number line, we see that the intervals is going up in 1/10. So we can simply complete the number line like this. Take note that after 1, will simply increase by 1. So it will be 11 hundredths because 1 is 10 tenths. So that will be 11 tenths. Yeah, 1 is 10 tenths. So that will be 11, 13, 12 tenths, 13 tenths, so on and so forth. But if we look at the number line, what about the ones underneath? We know that 2/10 is the same thing as 1/5. Yeah, you could simply do this by simplifying. Yeah, so we know that 2/10, we can divide 2 by 2, and we can divide 10 by 2 to give us 5. So 2 divided by 2 will be 1, and 10 divided by 2 will be 5. That is one way of doing it, but you should also know that 2/10 using our 100 squares is, sorry, got itchy nose. 2/10 is the same thing as 20 hundredths, right? And remember that the fifths splits the 100 squares into 20s, all right? So that is definitely 1/5. Now, using the method of completing the number line, we can complete that like this. Yeah. So another way to think about it is we have 5 intervals between 0 and 1. So if this is 1/5, then these orders can be completed like that. Okay. So 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 1, 6/5, so on and so forth is increasing. It's increasing by 1 every time. So notice that 1 is the same thing as 5/5. Yeah. 5/5, 5 divided by 5. Now, using this information, how do we complete these statements? Well, using your number line, which we've completed, you can see that 6/10 is 3/5. What about this one? 1/8. 1/8 means we've exceeded 1 now. 8/10 will have to be here. Why? Notice that 8/10 is 18/10. Yeah, 1/8 is 18/10. And is the same thing as 1/4, which is the same thing as 9/5. What about these ones? We can still use the number line to complete them. So 0.2 is 2/10, which is 20 hundredths. 2/10 is 20 hundredths, which means we've split the 100 squares into 5 little bits. So if we have one lot of that, which is 20, that will be 1/5. Okay. 7/5, you can use the number line to complete that. That will be 14/10. 1/3 will be 1/6, which is the same thing as 16/10. Remember, 1 whole is the same thing as 10/10. So 10/10. Here, 1 whole is the same thing as 5/5. So 5/5. So this will be 8. So 5 plus the 3 will be 8/5. 1.7 is the same thing as 1/7. So 1/7, if we use that, will be 17/10. And then that is the same thing as 1/2 plus 3/10. All right. Now, why? 1 is the same thing if we want to make them equivalent. So if we're going by tenths, 1 is the same thing as 10/10. And then 2/5 is the same thing as 4/10. So if we have 10 tenths plus 4 tenths, that will be 14 tenths. 14 tenths, so let me write, think of. So this is the same thing as 10 tenths. This is the same thing. So written on the side, 1/2 is the same thing as 1 plus 2/5. So 2/5 is the same thing as 4 tenths. So this here is 14 tenths plus 3 tenths, which is 17 tenths. Now 17 tenths is 10 tenths plus 7 tenths, and 7 tenths is 0.7. That's what you see here. So don't let it get you confused, okay? So what you've learned so far is you have seen lots and lots of equivalence, equivalent fractions. You've seen even whole numbers, um, and the equivalence between the fifths and the quarters. Pause the video and answer questions 4 and 5 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through it, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For question 4, you were asked which is greater, 3/4 or 4/5. Well, you can use your hundreds, your 100 squares to do this. So you know 3/4 is 75 hundredths and 4/5 is 80 hundredths. You know this by now. The fifths splits the 100 squares into 20s. So if we have four lots of that, that will be 80 hundredths. And the quarter splits the 100 squares into 25s. So if we have 3 lots of that, that will be 75 hundredths. So this is clearly greater than that. Next one, you were asked to fill in the missing numbers, and then you are using the number line. So by now, you should know the equivalence between the fifths and their equivalent decimals. So here are the answers. So just to discuss these quickly, you can see that it's going up. So we have 0. We know the interval is to 2. Then here we have 1. So between 1 and 0, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 divided by 5 is 0.2, is 1/5. That's why you have 0.2. So the next one will be 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then so on and so forth. And then you can use the equivalent fifths, the fractions, and here you have them. Pause the video and answer questions 6 and 7 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you were asked 15 3/4 or 15 7/10, which is greater. Well, we know the 15s are the whole numbers, so we're going to be comparing the 3/4 and the 7/10. Now, 7/10 is 70 hundredths, and 3/4 is 75 hundredths. So clearly, 15 3/4 is greater than 15 7/10. Okay. All right. Question 7. Here are the answers. Let's discuss them. You were asked, here is a number line from 0 to 1. You were asked to write a fraction with a denominator of 10, which could go after b. All right. Now that fraction should be 8 tenths. Yeah, 8 tenths. Why? If this is 0.2, and we can see that we could have split this into 4 equal parts. That's quarters. Yeah. So quarter is quarter splits the circle into 25 parts. Yeah. So 8 tenths should be 80 hundredths, which is, we should go after that. Yeah. And then write a fraction with a denominator of 100. Yeah. That could go before a. That would be 1 hundredths. Yeah. Remember, 0.2 is 2 tenths or 20 hundredths. Yeah. So if this is 20 hundredths, we can have halfway here. Yeah. So we can split this into 1, 2, into 2 more parts. So we'll have 1, 2. So let me write. So we can do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this could be 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. Okay. And then 1. Okay. Okay. Let's move on. All right, next you were asked to write 3 fractions that could be between A and B. So we can write these fractions. So you can write different fractions. Yeah. Here, pause the video and answer question 8 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you are asked to take the expressions that are equivalent to 4/5 of x. Yeah. So 0.8 is 80 hundredths. 80 hundredths splits. Yeah. So we know that the 80 hundredths is the same thing as 4/5. All right. So that will be 4/5. And then we know that 4/5 of x is also this. Yeah. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson. So take note what we've learned so far about being able to convert between decimals, between fractions and decimals, focusing on the quarters and the fifths, is that the quarters splits the 100 squares into lots of 25. So for example, if somebody say what is 2 quarters, okay, I need 2 quarters, which will be 2 lots of 25, which is 50 hundredths. Okay. If somebody say, what is 3/5? Okay, the fifths splits the 100 squares into 20s. So 3 lots of that will be 60 hundredths. Okay. All right. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.